Well, my mind's not made up, but I'm gonna do it anyway. What's up, everybody? Don't mind this. Hey, you should look in the mirror before you start filming an episode. What's going on? How's everybody doing? Yeah? I'm T. I'm your host. This is T's Good Times Garage, and we are out in said garage, looking down the barrel of some electrical wiring work on my 1967 Dodge Dart race car. It's had some issues. I had to go digging for a gremlin when my fuel pump stopped working at the last event I attended. Being completely unable to find said gremlin and seeing the routing and other miscellaneous gray areas. Is that a good way to describe some of the wiring that I've seen in this car? Maybe. We're gonna do it. We're gonna rewire the car and hope that I can get it done quick enough. And I say quick enough because I have a chance to do something in about 2 weeks from this filming that I've never done before. And I'm not really sure if I want to mention what that is just yet. I want to get things ready, be more sure that I'm actually going to do said things. Let's not waste any more time. First, I think the seat needs to come out. It's going to be a pain to actually be down under the dash. I just need to be able to access. And I tried to diagnose my fuel pump issue at Matt's with this seat in the car. So I looked like I was doing yoga or had fallen and I couldn't get up. And I don't want that to be the case. Seats out, all wiring out. Then we'll figure out where, we're gonna mount the fuse block / relay panel. And then we need to do the same thing with the switch panel, and we can start routing. Gotta get in here and loosen this bolt from the back of the seat bracket. And then there's 4, I think, bolts to the floor, through the floor. This seat sucked. I think it was installed with the idea that it was never coming out. Or maybe they were hoping. I forgot I wanted the tire off too, since all of that wiring runs through the wheel well. So we're gonna get the tire out of the way to make that a little easier to get to. Oh yeah, pull the trigger and hook the hose up at the same time. Woo. I'm glad I didn't have to loosen the shocks or anything. Get this thing out of the way here. Might have to sit that under the duster and see what that looks like. Come on, T, focus. I said it, I had to try it. But my freaking homemade dolly is in the way. I can't get it far enough forward. I don't know if I'll have this tall of a tire in there, but it's certainly going to be pretty close to this width. All right, back to your regularly scheduled programming. Not quite what I'm wanting for the front. I'm going to start here at the back. I'm going to disconnect the light wires, tail lights, all this other random stuff. And at that point, once it's all out of the car, we can start planning to reroute the new stuff. I am all up inside this wheel well. But in case you all wanted to take a peek at my Dana, here you are. I'm just gonna pull this wire and then we'll move back underneath the car. There's some crazy stuff going on in there. Long story short, they put a hose or something around everything, taped it up, and then just sheeted the floor over it. It's pinched in there pretty good. I'm trying to pull a wire through it. Take a little pressure off the floor. Looks like we're able to move a little bit. We have a dead end wire. And the infamous where everything runs under the floor pan. I'm going to go ahead and disconnect everything else at the starter. We've got a water pump and a fan down that direction that will disconnect. And I am going to try and pull things through that spot in the floor. We'll see what happens. Another testimonial for this little bracket on top of the mini starter. It changes the angle of the dangle of the starter cable connections. Definitely get one of these. I'm moving in. I think I need to add removable steering wheel to my list. It's definitely easier with the seat out. Well, I broke my light. That's awesome. Do you ever get to a point in a project where you start to regret that you started? That's where I'm at right now. And I only regret it because of the time frame that I put on myself. Yeah, now I've got major holes in the dash. I've got a big pile of old crap. I've got hanger downs from things that are staying. Ignition, gauge lights, tack. That was kind of a pain. The old switch panel looks pretty sorry now. And I don't know if I did this, but the old fuse panel does not look like it was in good shape. It's probably just a shade away from letting a lot of the factory smoke out of a lot of the wires. Big old crack. It's already showing signs of heat and melting. Took the speedometer out too. It never worked. It was never hooked up. I'm not even sure why they had one in there. Anybody want an Autometer Sport Comp speedometer? Time to start thinking about where this is going to go. I think I'm going to build a bracket for that relay slash fuse panel. So I'm going to start cutting this up, get it cleaned up and ready to actually weld into the car. This should be fun. Trying to do a little welding. Put my bracket into place to mount my fuse block. I've got my bracket in. I'm gonna let it cool off. Probably at that point put a little paint on it just to stop it from rusting, and we'll bolt the fuse panel in. And I did not do a great job welding in this instance, but I got it in there. It's holding very well, even though it doesn't look pretty. I'm not gonna get in there close. In fact, I should back up so you don't see how bad the welds actually are. You probably can tell anyway, especially you pros. Once that dries, I can put the fuse panel relay block in place. So right now I'm actually working on my dash. So I found this cool piece of diamond plate aluminum that I'm going to trim up and cover the previous switch and speedometer gauge holes. I'll probably have to cut a little bit more of this aluminum out to be able to still clear my new switch panel. I'm making myself a cardboard template. I'm just in the almost there stage of getting that trimmed up to fit. That's going to cover a significant section of things here. And I'll figure out about where my switch panel will go. Get just a little bit more to trim off of this. Then we'll be looking to cut up this beautiful piece of diamond plate in black. And that just seemed like a pretty cool contrast. I am also replacing my battery cable, going with this fat 1/0 gauge cable. That should provide the voltages. It had a 2 gauge cable from the battery switch all the way up to the starter. And that'll run eventually all the way up through here. And I'm running it inside the car as opposed to underneath like previous. There's a little teaser. It's dusty from cutting. I gotta clean it up. I'm gonna mark things and drill holes now to fasten it to the rest of the dash. Well, there she is. Switch panels installed. I just realized I'm a bad calendar keeper. Give me a second. We're going to change this really quick. But while we're at it, let's just take a look. This was January. February was a P51B Mustang. March, a Hawker Hurricane. And the current month, April, happens to be a P47 Thunderbolt. We're pretty much at the end of the month, so guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to switch this right on over to May. A Supermarine Spitfire. Enjoy. Hope you enjoyed that look at the previous 5 months. This has been T's calendar slacker moment. Well, we are making progress. Cooling fan, water pump, headlight wire. We've got our power wire cable ran to the starter. We've got our power coming into the cab. Here's my solenoid wire as well inside this loom. Let's see, how about a light? We've got our fuse block in place. We've got our main power fuse, our fusible link. We're starting to get cables in the directions they're going. This still looks like a menagerie over here. Don't worry about that. And I'll have to eventually get this loom secured. But that's the 1/aught cable and the taillights and fuel pump wire. Unfortunately not long enough from where I mounted the fuse block, but no big deal. I fear I'm about to spend considerable time under the dash. Wish me luck. Done this about 14 times already. Not exactly what I would call the fun part of the gig. I've been building grounds. Well, I think I'm going to call the engine, the forward harness. Well, let's not say complete. Let's say I'm probably done for now. Line lock. We've got water pump, cooling fan, and a headlight harness. And I don't know if you guys have seen this. It's probably been in your YouTube ads for a while. I took the $20 gamble. Well, I don't know. It's a love-hate relationship, right? I think the issue I'm having with it is that you still need this to heat up the part you're trying to solder to. Otherwise, all you're doing is feeding solder to the hot tip and melting it, and it doesn't stick to anything. So it is a little bit of a learning curve, and I'm still figuring it out. So far, so okay. Just in case you guys are wondering. At this point now, I need to make a connector out of this mess of wires so we can connect to this. Cable ends are all attached. Now we need to match up this sheet with the harness, or the switch side. So this is the harness, this is the switch side, excuse me. This is the harness side. We're gonna line up all of these wires into the connector. It is that time to test. And yeah, you might see some weird things like an open wire here. That's my neutral safety. What I'm trying to do right now is just make sure that everything's functional. And then I'll go ahead and, wire that in nice and neat and then get these wires routed. So here we are, testing. So we're hooked up. We've got 4 miles of wire lurking. I've hooked the battery up and turned on my switch. First thing, let's see, make sure I'm in park. That's a crank. Go back to reverse. Ooh, that's by design. Love it. That was neutral. And now we're in forward gears. No start. Neutral safety works. Well, while we're at it, I don't really want to fire it necessarily right now, but that was a weird sound. Okay, well, let's check other things. I can mess with that in a minute. Electric fan, operational. Fuel pump, operational. That's the water pump. I can't hear it. Well, everything can't work, right? Dang it. I'm kind of thinking there's an issue with this plug. Okay, well, I got to diagnose a water pump. We have gauge lights. We have tail lights. This light must be bad. Oh, there we go. On my accessory switch, I have my line lock. We apparently still have an issue there. Nearly there. Trying the water pump again. The terminals, the connection, basically the little metal inserts were trying to come apart on one side of the connection. So I think I fixed that. We now have water pump. One thing down. And on the ignition, I forgot that there's no coil wire on right now. So I think the coil was trying to do coil things without a wire. That sounds like fun. And then still trying to figure out why the line lock's not happy. So I figured it out. The secret to the accessory circuit, but the accessory circuit relies on the ignition. So now we have a line lock. All systems are go as far as the electrical goes. I am pretty happy. I gotta make at least a coil wire, but I think at this point I'll do that. And then as I have a few more minutes, I'll go ahead and make my new wires, put the tire back on. Next thing though will be to actually start it. Well, there's no seat in the car just yet, but I think it's about time to wrap this one up. We have a completed painless wiring kit installed. You can say that makes me a very happy individual. All the functionings function. So happy about that. The last thing we really need to do is have some loud noises. It's gonna be a little interesting to try and start this sitting on the transmission tunnel. Hopefully the battery's charged up enough. Not really. Systems are go. So I still have a few things I'm going to do, but I'm not going to bore you with that. Good chance that when you see this dart again, it will have new spark plug wires. It will definitely have a seat in it, and something I've needed to do for a little while. Replace some of these self-ejecting fasteners that I've been missing. So there's a good chance by the time you watch this, I will be making loud noises with the dart. I'll fill you in on those later. We'll definitely take you along for such things. So stick around for that. The dart will be in action very soon. Fingers crossed. We're gonna wrap this one up. Thank you very much for watching. The Painless kit, it hurts so good. Wasn't bad at all. We tried to solder as much as possible. We used shrink tubing on everything. Definitely recommend that. Tried to hide the wiring as much as I could. Put it in looms where possible. Please try and make it look halfway decent. Everything functions now. We're gonna test things out very soon. Stick around for that, guys. I appreciate you. If you haven't already, please hit that subscribe button. And why not the like button as well? You're right there. You're right there. Thank you guys very much. I appreciate you. We'll see you on the next one.